regarding which case this was, and he informed me that it is the Senzo Mayiwa case.
Lana ke ku paragraph 3 ke uyasho ke noma uyasisho isikhathi owacelwa ngaso ke uyena ke uKenya Mangena ecela uvo kuwena. Ingabe ngaleso sikhathi yini wawazi yini ukuthi lolo vo unikeza ngalo mayelana neliphicala kamuva ukuthi ke sengwenzile ke umsebenzi ke ngase ngimbuza ke uKenya Mangena ukuthi kumayelana neliphicala wangitshela ke ukuthi icala lika Senzo Mayiwa.
If the defense counsels on behalf of accused 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were to ask you if this was a borderline case, what would be your comment?
It is not a borderline case, my lord. I'm sufficient. There is sufficient agreement of individual characteristics for me to be able to say that this is
necessary for the state to ask if counsel for accused number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to ask you if this is a borderline, what your comment would be, than for the state to ask him, hey, if this was in fact a borderline case.
Yeah, what do you want me to say?
I'm asking from the understanding of the court whether that is an appropriate question or not.
I think it's appropriate because...
No, it's not appropriate.
Now, why do you ask me?
Because I want the court to redirect the state that you shouldn't really ask that question in that fashion. They should rather say, in your opinion, what is a borderline case or not?
How do you ask a judge an opinion? When the judge responds, then you say, no, I don't want you to say that. You must answer it this way.
I'm saying, my lord, Meromotu, the court must then direct that question should be disallowed.
No, I'm not disallowing it because I tried to explain to you that that is the defense which is proffered by all the accused, that this was a borderline case. Not me saying that. It's the accused.
That is so, my lord, but the state in the conduct of its case should then be asking this witness because immediately he assumes that it is us that are going to say it's a borderline case. Naturally, this witness is going to say, no, it's not a borderline case because he's not here for the defense. He's here on account of the state. Why can't the state then put a neutral assertion to her and say, in your view, after having determined this, after having done this analysis, do you find that this was a borderline case or not? Why does he have to mention us in his own case?
Well, they're within the law, and I'll tell you. I'll quote you just one big case. The South African Rugby Union case.
Oh, yes, madam.
The old president gave a view when he was against Louis Late.
Yes.
The law says you must state the defense case to the witnesses of the state. That's what the law says.
But my lord,
you must put the defense case to the witnesses so that they can respond. So I don't see anything wrong with this question of saying they are saying it's a borderline case. The defense is saying that. What is your view? And this witness is supposed to be here as an expert. Now I'm told that he's a witness of the state. I thought you were here as an expert.
Okay. She is here, my lord, on account of the state.
As an expert.
Yes,
that's it.
That is the expectation. But whether or not she's here as an expert is supposed to be, it's another thing. But for the state to say, the defense says that this is a borderline case, what is your view? Obviously, the mind of this witness then gets stated. Why can't she be simply asked, was this in your view a borderline case or not?
I've allowed that question, sir.
Thank you, my lord.
Okay.
So. Can you proceed to answer the question?
In my opinion, it is not a borderline case as there is sufficient agreement of individual characteristics.
Ingabe ngokwakho ke noma ngokwakho uvoke icala lelo ngathi ke icala ke elisaseduneni noma ke esiqophelweni ke ephezulu ke cha ngokwami ke kwangasilona ke ngoba ke lana kwakukhona ke okwanele futhi ke okwanginesayo ke nami ke ukuthi kutholakala ngakho uhlangothi futhi nangalapho yatholakala futhi.
I have no further questions, my lord, for this witness.
Thank you, my lord. I've got a few questions for you, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ma'am, you talked about verification and giving of opinion by other analysts. Have you verified the work of Lieutenant Colonel Mangena before the 22nd of July 2020?
Relating to any case or a specific case?
On other cases?
I have, my lord.
Ingabe ngaphambilini ke kwalelanga leli lange 22 July 2020 owacelwa ngalo Colonel Mangena ukuthi ke ubheke lona ke umsebenzi awenza khona ke la akacela khona yebo akhona amanye amacala akhe ke ake angicela kuona.
Have you ever gave opinion on the findings of Lieutenant Colonel Mangena before 22 July 2020?
I have, my lord.
Yebo ngaphambili kwazo i-22 July 2020 senganikeza ngalo uvo kumanye amacala akhe uKolonel Mangena.
And same thing has happened after the 22nd of July 2020. Has that ever happened after the 22nd of July 2020?
It has, my lord.
Futhi yebo nasemuva kwazo noma ngale kwazo i-22 July 2020.
And you gave evidence that you did not record your opinion on the day after you underwent the the microscopic analysis.
That's correct, my lord.
Futhi ke wethuke nobufakazi ke ukuthi ke lokho ke owakuthola ke awubhalanga phansi yebo kuyiqiniso.
All right. Have you ever, it could be verification of his work or giving of your opinion, have you ever differed with Lieutenant Colonel Mangena? Especially when you're giving opinion, have you ever, before the 22nd of July 2020 or after the 22nd of July 2020?
I can't recall whether I've agreed with him or disagreed with him specifically, but the possibility does exist.
Sekuke kwenzeka yini ke ukuthi ngaphambi kwazo i22 July 2020 noma emuva kwazo i22 July 2020 uma ucela ke uyena uKenneth Mangena uthi ke unikeze imbovo ukuthi ke usho uvo oluhlukileke kuyena angeke ngisho ke noma ngisakhumbulile ukuthi kusuka kwenzeka ke lokuthi ngivume ngiphikisane naye ke kodwa lokho kungenzeka.
But I know you can't recall, but you can recall something that happened 22 July 2020. This is just a fair question. Have you ever gave a different opinion on the works or on the findings of Lieutenant Colonel Mangena? Yes or no?
I can't recall, my lord.
Angikhumbula ukuthi sekwenzeka ukuthi yini nginikeze imbovo oluhlukile kuLieutenant Colonel Mangena.
Thank you. No further questions.
As the court pleases, my lord. Morning, ma'am.
Morning, sir.
Sorry. Morning, Captain.
Morning.
Captain, let's start briefly with a summation of your curriculum vitae. You stated that you did an internal training course and an external training course in ballistics, correct?
The ballistic training was internal, my lord. The external training was presented by UNISA, yes. So
Yebo ke lokhu i-training ephathelene nama-ballistics yona ke ngenzeka ngaphakathi ke esiphoyiseni bese kuthi ke le yangaphandle ke yenziwa yi-UNISA.
And you've never attended any courses that were conducted by the FBI that your peers, Lieutenant Colonel Sereo and Lieutenant Colonel Mangena, attended?
no, my lord, I did not attend the FBI course.
I-course yona ke ye-FBI lo ashoyo ke kumele ukuthi uKenneth Mangena kanye noKenneth Sereo baya kuyona mina ke angazi ngiyona.
Now you join the Forensic Sciences Laboratory ballistic section in 2000, the year 2000, and then at paragraph 2.4, you state that you were declared competent and proficient in forensic ballistics examination. After how long since you joined were you declared competent and proficient?
If my recollection is correct, I was declared proficient on the 1st of April 2004. 2004.
You said the date?
The 1st of April 2004, but that is if I'm correct.
Uma ke ngingenzi iphutha ke kwakungeyi-1 zika April 2004 uma sebeshoko ukuthi manje sengikulungile ke ukuthi ke umsebenzi lona ke noma ke ukuhlolwa ke kwawo ke umsebenzi lo uphathelene nebhamu lenhlamvu ngingawenza. Nanjengoba mina ngaqala ke ngo-2000 ukusebenza ke kuwona ama-ballistic.
Now your testimony is that you are approached by Lieutenant Colonel Mangena to do microscopic comparison on his findings, correct?
It's an opinion. I was asked for an opinion on
Yes,
microscope.
an opinion.
That's correct, my lord.
Kuyiqiniswa ukuthi ngazi 22 July 2020 ingathi ke engangicela uyena uLieutenant Colonel Mangena engicela uvo.
Now, just briefly, between the 22nd of July 2020 to date, how many examinations and comparisons have you conducted?
My lord, I cannot recall. I will have to go back to the system. I have also been appointed as acting group leader where I oversee members and I review. So don't do as many cases specifically for a certain period of time.
Uma ungasho ke ukuthi ke ukusuka ke ngaso ke lesisikhathi ke kuze kube manje ukuthi semangaki ke amaqala osuwenzileke ngafanele ngibuyele emuva ke ngiyobheka ke lokho futhi ke isikhathi kuba nesikhathi ke la engenzi umsebenzi omningi ngoba ke kunesikhathi la khona ke engaqokwa ke ukuthi ke ayibe mina ke ohola ithimba ke ubheka umsebenzi woza kwethu.
But I can get the record for the court if needed.
Yes, but the point is it 10, 20, 100, 2,000 cases because you've conducted over 6,000 examinations and comparisons. So I want to know roughly from the time you did an opinion for Lieutenant Colonel Mangena to date. Let's forget about the period when you are promoted, you are now seeing members. When you were doing examinations, how many cases?
It will be more than 100, my lord, because we work overtime on a monthly basis. So for 34 hours a month, I actively do cases, at least for overtime, and then some during the day. It will depend on the circumstances of the day.
Uma sesingakhuluma ke noma uthi ke ayisho ukuthi ke kusuka ngaleso sikhathi ke kuzofica manje ke ngasho ke ukuthi ke amaqala ke adlulile ke kena ke u100 ngoba ke banenkathi ke la asithi mhlambe ke nenyanga ke sebenza ke amahora awu34 futhi ke sebenza ke overtime kuloko.
And do you know the details of those 100 or so cases that you've conducted and examined?
No, my lord, there's too many to recall.
Amaqala amaningi ke la ukuthi ke ngawakhumbula ukuthi yiwapi noma yiwapi lawo maqala engisebenze kuwona.
Now, how come that you recall the details of this opinion for which you've told this court that there's no note, there's no where you recorded your workings and your examination of this test, the exhibit bullet and the test bullets.
As I explained, my lord, I asked Colonel Mangena after my microscopic examination what case this is. He informed me that it is a Senzo Mahiwa case. I know that I made it positive. I made the exhibit bullet positive to the test in this specific case. The lab numbers and the dates, that is completely different. But I know for a fact that I made it positive.
Uma usho ke uthi ke amanye amacala lana ke imininingwane yakhona ke awunayo kwenzeka kanjani ke ukuthi ke wazi ke mayelana naleli ke icala bese ngishilo ke ngaphambilini ukuthi ngambuza ke uma sengiqedile yena uLieutenant Colonel Mangena ukuthi yiliphi lecala leli wasengitshela ukuthi lona ke icala leli elasenze meyiwa yila engazi khona ke ukuthi ke ngiyazi ke ukuthi lapho ke engathola ke ngathola ke ukuthi ke inhlamvu lezi embili ezadudulwa ke ngesibhamu esisodwa ukuthi ke ama lab number kanye nama dates kona ke kuhlukile lokho kodwa ngangazi nje ukuthi imiphumela yona yayithini.
When Colonel Mangena came to me for an opinion, he had already done his own microscopic comparison.
Ngengathi ke uLieutenant Colonel Mangena eza kumina ke wayeseqedile yena ke ukuqhathanisa ke lokho ekwenza ngayo ke imicroscope.
I did my own independent microscopic work to which I informed him of my findings.
Ngase mina ngizenzela ke owami ke umsebenzi ke ngase ngimtshela ke ngaloko engakuthola.
He recorded his findings and we agreed with his findings.
Yena ke lokho akuthola wayebhale phansi ke sase siyavumelana ke ngaloko yena ke akuthola.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to limit your answer to my questions. The issues that I want to converse with you, I'll come to those issues. Right?
Okay.
Now, based on the fact that your opinion is not recorded anywhere, not even a worksheet to say, I, Ritha Grobler Feliun, date 22 July 2020, comparison TB3, TB10, or whatever comparison you did, and then result in the inclusion, elimination, or inconclusive. We don't have a piece of document like that, correct?
I don't have a piece of document like that.
Yebo kuyiqiniso ukuthi akukho la engibhale khona phansi ke imininingwane mayelana ke nedate ukuthi ngenzani ninike futhi.
So all we have today here in court right now is your say-so, that you made certain comparisons and you came to a conclusion of a match or an inclusion. That's your say-so. That's your ipsa dixit.
That's correct, my lord. I did it under oath.
Esinako thina ke iloko kushiwo kuwena ke ukuthi ngenza lokho ngase ngithola lokho. Yebo kuyiqiniso futhi ngikwenze lokho ke futhi ngikufungele.
Now let me give you a background of my cross-examination to you. Colonel Mangena testified in this matter regarding the exhibit firearm, the exhibit bullet that he tested and compared with the test fires. The beginning of the story is that in February of 2015, a warrant officer, Rulofse, received these exhibits and he fired 2 test fires, which is TB1 and TB2. Can I continue, Mr. Johnson? Okay. Then, upon Colonel Mangena's receipt of the test bullet, he first received the test bullets, TB1 and TB2. And then he later received the firearm. And upon receipt of the firearm, he fired several test fires, which are now 8 of them, TB3 to TB10. So the total tests fired were 10, inclusive of the 2 of warrant officer. Having compared, firstly, TB1 and TB2 with the exhibit bullet, he found that there were some individual marks, but not enough to make an inclusion or a finding, whether it's elimination, conclusion, inconclusive, or the like. Then he had to go and fetch the firearm at Cleveland Police Station so that he can fire the bullets that match the material that was used in the exhibit bullet that was found at the scene, which is a C&J. And to track back a bit, the tests TB1 and TB2 that were fired by Rulofse were FMJs, which are the full metal jackets. Mangena goes, gets the firearm, fires 2 FMJs and 6 CMJs, the complete metal jackets, 6 of those. So in total, 4 FMJs are fired. Mangena says his FMJs that he fired are PNP. The 6 CMJs, 2 are 6-hour, 2 he forgot the make, even at the time he testified he didn't give the make of the manufacturer of those 2. And then the other one is ANG, the 2 are ANG. Then, having compared all the test fires, 10 of them, he saw the best profile of marks on TB5 and TB9 that he compared with the exhibit bullet and came to a finding of an inclusion. After that, that's when you and your colleagues come into picture on the 22nd of July. He testifies further, Colonel Mangena, to say, I then approached Captain Viljoen, now Grobler, Captain or Warrant Officer Fesser, Lieutenant Colonel Serrel, I'm not sure about the ranks, the others, to furnish me with their opinions, which they did, and they agreed with me. On the 23rd of July, 2020, he then approaches Lieutenant Colonel Serrel. So sorry, the third colleague was Warrant Officer Ntili. Serrel does the verification on the 23rd of July, 2020. And he also examines TB3 to TB10, or all 10 of them. He was dilly-dallying as to whether he did on all 8 or on all 10 test fires, compares them, and then he finds the best marks, profile of marks on TB8, and the lesser better marks on TB4, which he both then makes a finding of an inclusion or a match. You can interpret now, Mr. Jonas, because I have to move.
Remember the question you asked.
As far as I know, he's giving me a scenario.
If it's a background, my lord, there's no question there.
See.
Yes. I can proceed. Now you come to court. You've done an opinion on the 22nd of July. First question. At the time, Colonel Mangena gives you TB3 to TB10. Did you know that he had already made a finding of an inclusion or a match?
Am I aware that he'd already made a finding?
At the time he approached you on the 22nd of July, 2020, when he gave you the case file and the exhibits to compare, did you know then that he had made a positive finding?
I knew he had made a finding. As to what the finding was, I wasn't aware of. After my confirmation, I said, this is my opinion, which then he informed me, and it was documented, that it is the same.
Ingabe ngazo i-22 July 2020 ngathi ke sorry uKhenel Mangena ekunikeza yona le file wawazi ukuthi yina ke utholeni ke cha ngangingwazi ukuthi nje wenzile ke umsebenzi khona akatholile ukuthi noma akatholile kuyini ngangakwazi uma sengiqedile ke sengimtshela ukuthi mina nake ngitholile yila asengitshela khona ukuthi yebo ke nami ngithole lokho futhi wangitshengisa ngoba kwabhalwe phansi yena lokho awayekutholile.
And you have testified in evidence in chief about the manner in which you did the comparison. You said you took the exhibit bullet and took one of the test fires side by side, compared them, and made a finding. Correct?
My lord, I said I first compared the tests to each other.
Yes. You compared the tests among themselves to familiarize yourself with the profile of markings. From there, you remove the test, and then now you start the comparison.
I then compared the first bullet and then a second bullet.
Engishilo qala ukuthi ke sorry ngiqale lana ke ngokuthi ke ama test ngiqhathaniswe wona kwase ke emuva kwalokho ngasusa ke manje ke enye ke inhlamvu ila engithatha khona ke inhlamvu yokuqala.
Now let us remove the vagueness. Those test bullets are marked TB3 to TB10. Which of those did the one that you say is the first, did you see the best mark on to compare with the exhibit bullet?
I can't recall the specific test, my lord, as I did not make a note.
Manje ke awusitshele ukuthi yiphi ke lena ke owayithatha ke ngoba ke ayimakhiwe ke abo TB3 kuyofika ke na ku TB10 yiphi ke owayithatha ke waqhathanisa na wabona ke ukuthi yiphi othola ke kuyona ke ekuyona ke ama test angisakhumbuli ke ngoba ke angaze noma ke angizange ngibhale phansi.
Let's do this. I've given you the background scenario. Colonel Mangena compared TB5 and TB9 to the exhibit bullet. Did you compare TB5 and TB9? Did you compare TB5 and TB9?
When comparing all the tests to each other, I compared TB3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to each other, and they were fired from the same firearm. I familiarized myself; they had the same markings. So whether I specifically compared it to the specific exhibit, I cannot recall, but I did compare them to each other.
Lana ke uKenneth Mangena ushilo ke ukuthi yena ke umeqhathanisa ke wathatha ke uTB5 kanye noTB9 ingabe nawe wakwenza yini lokho ke mina ke mangwathatha ke thatha kusuka kena ke uTB3 u4 5 6 7 8 9 no10 ke ngaqhathanisa ke enye kanye nenye.
Now let me add another spice to this point. Colonel Mangena says the barrel of the firearm that shot this test was worn out, and as a result the impartation of marks onto the bullets were not consistent. Thereby he saw the best profile of marks on TB5 and 9. Sereo sees the best profile of marks on TB8, and he says to a lesser extent on TB4. And the FMJs in particular, because of the hard metal component and content of that bullet, was difficult to, not difficult per se, but it did not transfer sufficient marks. So all I want to get from you is this. You indiscriminately test and compare TB3 to TB10, and correct me if I'm wrong. You are saying all of those TB3 to TB10 had sufficient marks on them for you to compare and make a positive finding. Is that what you say?
My lord, when I compared the tests to each other, even though the marks are lighter, they are still individual marks. Whether it be FMJ or CMJ, there are still sufficient marks to be able to say that even these marks are lighter, it is still the same firearm. Therefore, after my comparison between the tests, I took the best test and I compared it to the exhibit. Whether the marks are lighter or darker or more prominent, it doesn't matter. The point is I could say that even the FMJs and CMJs were still fired from the same firearm. Whether the individual characteristics were more prominent or not, there was sufficient agreement of individual characteristics.
Ukuthi ke isimo ke salama marks sasinjani ke amanye egqamileke kunamanye noma ke engabukeki noma engabonakali kahle ke kodwa ke lokho kumina ke kwabaneleke ukuthi ngiboneke ukuthi cha kukhona ke okukhona la noma ke engingasebenza ngakho lana ke ila esengithathe khona ke manje le engathi ke kwakuyila ungathi ke iwona ke angcono noma ke at the best ukuthi manje ngiqhubeke ke ngenze noma ngiqhathanise ngokusebenzisa wona.
I get you. Now, I want to throw another thing as well. You compare TB3 to 10 with the exhibit bullet. Which method did you employ amongst the methods of determining the striations and the impressions on the bullet?
Pattern matching, my lord.
Mina ke indlela ke engayisebenzisa ke ukuthi ke ngiqhathanise ke noma ukubiza ukuthi ke ama pattern noma ke indlela ke.
Okay. You've briefly touched on how you compared the test. With pattern matching, exactly, what are we looking at compared to, there's a method also that Colonel Mangena and Colonel Serrell testified about, which is the CMS or consecutive matching striae method. The two of them, you say you only, or did you only do the pattern matching?
My lord, you can do pattern matching and inadvertently do CMS. CMS is simply a quantitative method to describe a pattern match.
Lana ke ungakwenza noma ungayisebenzisa ke lena ke ebizwa ngokuthi ke iyona ke pattern matching noma ke indlela ke kanye futhi nale ebizwa ngokuthi ke CMS yona ke ekuyindlela ke eyobheka ke yona ke ibheka yona ke i-pattern matching le CMS.
But in your comparison and in your observation